Pressure coming. One-on-one.
In zones. Johnson caught. D. Anderson got it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week 2 college football picks, predictions, whatever you want to call them. As you saw last week, I went 7-4. Christian with a
10-1.
really good record,
10-1.
10-1. Some really good picks from you. Obviously, I wanted to see a little more chaos. That's why I picked BYU, and it was close, 9-6 at half. Also, Northwestern and Stanford coming into a close one.
Yeah.
The Hunter Johnson just kind of coughing the ball up at the end. So that was, and also both starting quarterbacks go down.
Tough game for both teams, really.
Yeah, it was a knockout. Whoever had the last possession, really.
Gave him the hardest form I've ever seen.
Yeah, but it was
a
a very good week for college football. We're really happy that it's all back. Week 2 has a lot of really good games. Not as highly anticipated games as like on the slate, but it has 2 really good games with Texas A&M and LSU.
Yep.
Both heading to
hostile environments.
LSU
to Texas, and then Texas A&M to Clemson.
Yeah, so it should be a really good week. But let's get going with one of our first picks, Miami and North Carolina. For Miami, Miami played tough against Florida. Yes, they gave up 6 sacks, and their quarterback just got hit way too many times, and he's a freshman. That offensive line needs to get better if they want to win against anybody in the ACC. And I think this week, after an emotional win from UNC and Mac Brown, I think they dropped this one. I'm going to go with Miami wins at UNC. I feel like it's going to be a tight game.
That's a hot take. That's honestly a hot take, because I think if you're thinking that the emotional win, they're still high. They're still high off this.
I think they're a little bit hungover off that win.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that no one's giving credit to Sam Howell for having such a good performance against South Carolina and coming back to win this game.
Right.
Sam Howell did go 15-24, and he had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He played well. I mean, he did take 3 sacks, but I'm sorry I didn't watch the game, or I didn't pay attention too much to the game. But Sam Howell had a game, and no one's talking about it. I think Sam Howell is still going to be able to lead his team to a win. I think he's going to will this UNC team to a above 500 record. So I think UNC takes this win against Miami.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to watch this game, especially because they're both freshman quarterbacks, true freshman quarterbacks, going after it, and especially because this will play huge, especially like going down the years when they're both juniors, as both will become highly competitive quarterbacks in the ACC. But moving on to the next one, we got Nebraska at Colorado. Should be a really good one. Colorado had a really good win. Nebraska struggled a little bit against South Alabama, so we'll see how they do heading to Colorado. What is this, a rivalry?
A former rivalry, but back when Nebraska was in the Big 12, yeah.
Right, and Colorado was also in the Big 12.
Big 12, yep.
But I'm going to go, I think Nebraska last week struggled a little bit, but I think they tighten everything up. Scott Frost does a really good job of doing that, and we saw last year that as the season progressed, they got slightly better and better and better. I'm going to go with Nebraska wins this in a very tight one. I'm going to go probably score of like a 28-35.
I think I'm right there with you. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Nebraska as well. I just think Adrian Martinez is gonna pick it up after having such a rough first week. I think he's still up there in terms of caliber and in terms of leadership, and I think they're gonna be able to take this win at Boulder, or in Boulder, and I think it's gonna be a close game. I'm gonna say 28-21.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to watch that game. But moving on to the next one, we got Minnesota at Fresno State. Fresno State almost, I wouldn't say they almost beat USC, but they were really competitive against USC. They struggled a little bit, as you saw with Jorge Reyna. He needs to do a little bit better at passing the ball. He looked a little bit tight. Maybe he didn't want to run the ball as much. USC losing JT Daniels it's sad to see. So hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. But Minnesota struggled a little bit as well last week against South Dakota State. So I want to say it's like first week jitters. You know, some teams obviously struggle in the first week, but I feel like Fresno State did a really good job against USC. Even if JC Daniels went down, they still competed really well. And this game will be at Fresno State. I think Minnesota struggled too much last week. And I think Fresno State looks a little better. I'm going to go with Fresno State because they had a really good competitive game against USC, who USC is a little more talented than Minnesota. So I'm going to go with the fact that they played really well against, guys that are 5 stars, 4 stars, or whatever. And Minnesota, they do recruit semi-well. I'm going to go with Fresno State gets the upset.
I'm going to go contrary to what you just said. I think Minnesota is just a better coach team and just a more talented team than Fresno State. although Fresno State did hold on and did play very well against a very talented USC team, because they just like you said, they do recruit well. They always recruit well. They will always recruit well. They'll always get their 4 and 5 stars. But I still think Minnesota is just more talented. They'll be better coached. I think they'll pick it up after having such a rocky first week. And I do think it was just first game jitters. I think they just had to get that out of their system and then move on. I think they're going to put it behind them. They got the dub. They got what they needed, and now they're going to move on to the next, business trip. And they're going to head over to Fresno State. They're going to handle business. I think I see Minnesota winning this 35-14 maybe.
I would be really careful on who you pick, especially because we saw Purdue head to Nevada last week. Another Mountain West versus Big Ten matchup. So be careful on who you pick. I'm going to go with Fresno State, but yeah, Minnesota does have a chance as well. They are very good, especially with PJ Fleck as head coach. He's a really good head coach, as we saw what he did at Western Michigan.
Yep.
So, but moving on to our next game, like we just mentioned them, Purdue hosting Vanderbilt this week. Purdue coming off a tough loss, especially to Nevada. Nevada just somehow snuck away with that win. Purdue kind of almost just basically gave it away. They basically should have put the game away in multiple possessions. And looking at Vanderbilt, they went up against Georgia, obviously one of the better teams in the SEC, so we can see why they struggled. But now they get to face a team that I think won't have the athletes that Georgia had.
Yep.
So this game should be a little closer. But I'm gonna go Purdue. I'm gonna go Purdue because they got a rough week 1 loss. So I'm gonna go with they get a bounce back win and they start 1-1, and I think that's gonna build momentum for the rest of the season.
And I think I'm with you right there. I think Purdue had a great showing against Nevada. Despite the loss, they did just cough up the win. They were up 31-14 at one point, then 31-17, and they didn't see the end zone the rest of the game. And also, I watched that game, and I was really, I really fell in love with how Elijah Sindelar actually kind of held himself and composed himself inside the pocket. He threw 423 yards. He had himself a game. He didn't play bad at all. He had 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He made bad decisions when they needed him to be clutch, and he couldn't pull it through. And those 2 interceptions came in the second half when they were losing the lead.
Right.
I love the way Sindelar played. I love the way Rondale Moore played, and I've really enjoyed how George Karlaftis looked on the line. He was just so close to getting his sack or so close to getting tackle for losses, and he just barely missed him. And he's close, and he's gonna get there.
Right.
And I think Purdue can pull. I think Purdue has the athletes to pull this win out because it is at home. It is in Ross-Ade, and Vanderbilt is gonna come and have a rude awakening with the Ross-Ade crowd. So I think Purdue wins this, and I think they win not handily. I think they win this by at least 10 or 14.
It should be a good game, so we'll see what happens. Moving on to the next one is Cincinnati at Ohio State. Now, we saw Ohio State do really well, especially with Justin Fields. Cincinnati just getting a really good win against UCLA. I'm going to say Cincinnati is going to be a little better. Obviously, they're going to be much better than FAU was. And Ohio State is going to be much, much better than UCLA was. Both of these teams are going to look at each other, and they're going to see a little higher competition than what they saw the week before. I'm going to go with Ohio State wins just because they're at home. And Ohio State just has a little more talent on the defensive side of the football. And I think that's going to be a little too much for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
I'm right there with you. Ohio State is looking like themselves. They didn't leave. They didn't go anywhere. They look just like themselves. This team is going to just roll Cincy. And it's not going to take away from Cincy. They're a great team, and they returned a lot of people. We know this already. And they played well in their first game against UCLA. Now, they're just not at that caliber with Ohio State. They're not there, and I don't think they'll reach there anytime soon. Not to my knowledge, at least. I think Ohio State rolls in Columbus.
Right. I think it'd be really interesting to see if there was an upset there with Cincinnati, upsetting Ohio State. But that seems kind of very unlikely, at least the way we're looking at it, just because of how good Justin Fields looked in week 1. But moving on to the next one, I think Stanford at USC should be a very good game. Both starting quarterbacks, are out. As of right now, KJ Costello's listed as questionable, and we won't find out if he's going to play until game day. So we won't know for sure if he's starting, but I think this game will be very low scoring. It'll be just like Northwestern and Stanford like last week. I'm going to go with Stanford wins. I think they have the sophomore quarterback that's going to pull a win into the Coliseum, and it's going to be about, I think, the same score as last week, 17-10, 17-7, 10-13, something like that.
Something real low scoring.
I got you.
Low scoring. And I'm going to pick Stanford as well. I think USC, just because USC lost JT Daniels, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy. I think it's time to say goodbye to this season. I think it's okay to wrap the season up in a bow because you lost your key player on the offense, which is JT Daniels. He's supposed to be your savior, and he's gone. He's gonna be gone for the rest of the year. He's not coming back, and I think it's safe to say that just because they have this young quarterback coming in He's not capable like JT Daniels is.
Right.
I'm not taking away from his skill set. This quarterback is playing in Division I football. He is good. He got a scholarship to go play at USC, but he's just not at the caliber that JT Daniels is at. And I think Stanford takes this win, and I think it's going to be close. And I think the Stanford defense is going to hold strong because they only allowed 210 total yards against Northwestern. And I think Stanford's defense is going to have themselves a good game. They're going to flex their muscles one more time, and they're going to take this win in the Coliseum.
Right, it's going to be a very low-scoring game. Both quarterbacks. It's so sad to see that JT Daniels goes down with a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
We wish him he gets a speedy recovery. But it's so hard to replace someone like that, especially because he was going to be someone that was going to lead this team to at least a good bowl win.
Yeah.
Basically, almost what Sam Darnold was.
Yeah.
And it's hard to replace. He had a really a promising first year. He struggled a bit, but his second year he should have had a breakout season. And especially because they needed him. They're going to need him, especially for the next 5 games, because their schedule is tough. It's brutal.
This was his time to shine, and it's really sad to see that him go like that. So yeah, wishing him a speedy recovery and hoping the best really for this USC offense.
Right, but moving on to Army and Michigan, a very key game that a lot of people think that this could be on upset watch because of Army and the triple option. That triple option is going to be key to this game because they can hold the ball for a very long time, and Michigan could probably not see the field all that much. And the way I see it is Michigan needs to do a really good job of getting off the field on third downs. That means if it's 3rd and 1, they got to get in there, because if Army keeps going, this drive is going to keep going, and it's not going to stop until they score, or at least until
get a field goal or something. It's going to gas the defense.
Also, Michigan needs to do a really good job of getting touchdowns every possession that they get, because they're not going to get many possessions against Army, because Army, like we mentioned, is going to hold the ball for a very long time. But I think I'm going to go with Michigan. I think Michigan's going to win this game. I was going back and forth with Army or Michigan. I think Michigan's a very good football team, and I think this environment will be a little too much for this Army team, and I think this defense will step up in big situations, especially on 3rd and short, 3rd and 1,
right.
3rd and 3. All I will say is they should watch for counters, jet sweeps, reverses, and stuff like that, and play action, and also watch for the pass, because Army can pass the ball. They don't do it very often, but they will pass the ball. I'm going to go with Michigan wins in a tight one. I'm going to go 17-10.
Yeah, just like you said, Army does enter the big house as severe underdogs. But I love the triple option. I think I made it pretty apparent already. I think people already know. I love the triple option. And I think Army is going to get the wheels turning. I think they had a rough first week just because it's just the triple option. I think just the way it is, the way it's designed. Not everybody's gonna be always on the same page. They might have been plugging young guys in. They might have been doing that on purpose to make Michigan feel like at ease or something. Who knows? I don't know. But they did have a rough game against Rice. But they did need to pass the ball to win the game. So like you said, they can pass the ball if needed, but that's not going to be their go-to play. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to run it down your throat. They're going to control the clock. But I think this week, Army gets all the wheels turning, and I think they're able to squeak out of the big house with a 17-14 win. I think it's going to be extremely close. It'll be less than it. It could be 10-7. I just think that Army did travel to Oklahoma last year, gave them a game, almost won it, took it to overtime, but couldn't squeak it out. I think this time they understand how big the environment is, and they understand how big the atmosphere is, that I think they're going to be able to surpass that and then pull the upset. I have Army winning this.
Yeah, that'll be a really good game, especially because it's a noon kickoff. So we'll get to see that game really early and pretty fast. But moving on, we got Texas A&M going to Clemson, a game that last year was really close. It came down to 2 points. Trevor Lawrence struggled in the opener, and he needs to do better, especially because this Texas A&M defense will make him pay on those turnovers. Also, Jimbo Fisher is very familiar with Clemson. He did coach at Florida State. They did play multiple times. So I will say that the familiarity with Jimbo Fisher and Clemson is there. I think Jimbo Fisher, that's why it was so close last year. And I think Jimbo Fisher gets these guys ready, and I think they go into Clemson in a very hostile environment, and I think they pull out an upset.
Yeah, I love the talk coming from Texas A&M's locker room that they're predicting to win this game. That O-lineman, I love that talk. I love all that trash talking. It might not be trash talk to you because they did ask him on the interview, and he said that he predicts that an upset. And I'm with him. And I'm with him with this. I'm picking Texas A&M, and I think they do it. A&M enters Death Valley. and they come away with a close win against arguably the best team. And my score is going to be much more low scoring. I think it's going to be similar to what it was last year. More 22-19, 21-20 kind of game. Very close, 1.2 point game. I think Texas A&M comes away with this game.
And as for our last game, we go to the biggest game of the day. Is LSU heads to Texas, a very anticipated game, and we will see Texas if what they did to Georgia was just a fluke. Was Georgia really just unmotivated,
right, or
was it just Texas imposing their will on Georgia? So we will see that, a Big 12 team versus another SEC team. I like this matchup, especially because we have two quarterbacks that are very good, passing the ball. One's a little more Tim Tebow-ish, but a better thrower, and the other one's just more of a pocket passer. But he does have wheels, so he can also run the ball. I will say that Sam Ehlinger does need to improve a little bit on his passing. He was a little bit inaccurate last week. Yes, it was week 1, but this LSU defense secondary will be much tighter, and they will be harder to pass on because this is almost like DBU. For LSU. So
right.
LSU defense, like I said, is going to be tough to move. So I think it all starts in the trenches. Can they establish a running game early and to help out Sam Ehlinger with the passing game? I will also say that LSU offense looked really good last week. Now, yes, that was against Georgia Southern, and that was a cupcake. So now it's a step up to Texas.
Right.
And can they replicate the same success with that offense in Texas? I'm going to go with LSU wins this game. I think I'm going to go LSU wins this game. I think the offense looks really good from last week. I think they take a step up. I think they look really improved. They look really tight. I think they have really good receivers. And I think this is a little too much for that Texas defense.
Yeah, I think Texas is a solid team. I think nobody's going to argue that. Texas is a good team. But yet again, as I'm going to reiterate, as I did in the comment section before, Texas defense is not existent. It's letting teams run, throw, pass, whatever it wants to do all over them. They allow 413 yards when they play Louisiana Tech, and I think LSU is a much better team than Louisiana Tech. I think LSU is going to take advantage of how poor this defense is, and they're going to have their way with it. I think LSU is going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it big. I think they're going to impose their will. I think they're going to flex their SEC muscles, and they're going to let Texas know where they belong. I think LSU is going to reestablish that the SEC is much better than the Big 12, and I think they're going to establish that Texas is not back.
Yeah, it'll be a really good game. You have two really good games, actually. We have LSU and Texas, and then we have Clemson and Texas A&M. Very good matchups. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. If you guys liked it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, because it helps us out. And comment below. Tell us your picks and what you guys think of some of these games, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.